Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon, the NYPD retired Sergeant of Detectives. You know, this Louvre case, because they've been arrested, we would think that we would know a lot more. However, what seems to be most important on authorities' minds in France is the return of these jewels. It doesn't seem like the fact that they made arrest is a great thing, but they want these jewels back. After all, this is a property crime. Two suspects, according to CNN, arrested in connection with the theft of France's crown jewels from the Louvre Museum have admitted involvement in the heist and have been remanded in custody, according to the Paris prosecutor's office said today. The Paris prosecutor also said the stolen jewels are not in the authorities' possession. The two suspects were presented before an investigative judge on Wednesday, and one has been placed under formal investigation for organized theft and criminal conspiracy, according to Paris prosecutor Laure Boucaud. The heist, a brazen 7-minute daylight raid on the Louvre's Apollo Gallery, captured the world's attention after thieves escaped with jewels worth tens of millions. The two men were arrested Saturday evening and held in custody, where they were questioned for 96 hours. Two additional suspects remain at large. The first suspect is 34 years old. He's of Algerian nationality. He had prior records for traffic-related offenses and was identified through DNA recovered from one of the scooters. The second suspect is 39. He's an illegal taxi driver and delivery driver born in Aubervilliers, a suburb of Paris. He was previously known to police for aggravated theft. His DNA was found on glass that had been broken from one of the display cases, according to prosecutors. There is nothing to suggest that the four perpetrators benefited from any form of inside help within the museum, Boucaud said on Wednesday news conference. It's unclear which of the suspects has been placed under formal investigation. The crime of theft as part of an organized gang carries a potential 15-year prison sentence and a heavy fine. More than 100 investigators have been involved in the manhunt, and authorities were able to track down the individuals after analyzing more than 150 DNA samples and examining several items the group left behind, such as gloves, a helmet, and high-vis jackets left at the scene. One of the men was arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport as he attempted to leave the country. He was stopped as he attempted doing a passport check, actually, before he could board an evening flight to Algeria. The stolen jewels, among them an emerald necklace set with more than 1,000 diamonds gifted by Napoleon to his second wife, were not recovered during the arrest. The thieves raided the Apollo Gallery on the Louvre's upper floor, which houses the French crown jewels, on October 19th. They used a truck-mounted ladder to gain access to the gallery, one of the most ornate rooms in the museum, through a window. They broke into two high-security display cases and made off with 9 items, including a diamond and sapphire jewelry set worn by Queen Marie Emmanuelle and Queen Hortense. So, obviously, this is one of the biggest art heists in the history of the world. And that seems to be a bigger priority than it is prosecuting these guys. They seem like the government and the police, they want these jewels back, and they want them back very quickly. So, folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
here is an update from France 24 TV coming at you.
2 suspects have been arrested over the Louvre crown jewel heist, and they are set to be charged now with theft and criminal conspiracy. This has all been confirmed by the Paris prosecutor. Just to remind you, Sunday, October the 19th, as the museum opened for visitors, an audacious raid was carried out, a gang making off with 88 million euros worth of jewels, the French crown jewels, in fact, which are still missing. Well, the Paris prosecutor spoke a little earlier.
These 2 men are suspected of being those who penetrated the Apollo Gallery to take the jewels. The first, aged 34 and of Algerian nationality. The second suspect is aged 39. He's already known to authorities for aggravated theft perpetrated in 2008 and 2014. He's also under judicial supervision in another case of aggravated theft.
Paris prosecutor Laure Becquerel. Catherine Norris-Trent has been following the story for us.
The Paris prosecutor said that the 2 men who were taken into custody on Saturday night have been up before a judge, and the charges they are looking at are robbery as part of an organised gang and being part of a criminal conspiracy. Those 2 men, she said, had partially confessed to taking part in the Louvre jewel theft, although she didn't go into much more detail about what they said because she said this was an ongoing investigation. We also know there are at least 2 more suspects still on the run. DNA samples from at least 4 people were found at the scene by the forensics team, who found more than 150 DNA samples in and around the Louvre at the site of that robbery. And the prosecutors aren't ruling out that there could be other accomplices too, although they did say that at this stage they had no evidence that made them believe that there were accomplices inside the museum, that this was an inside job. Importantly, the prosecutor said they still haven't managed to recover any of the priceless jewels that were stolen from inside the museum. And the prosecutor made an appeal to anyone who might have them or come into contact with them, saying that it was still not too late to give them back. Meanwhile, we've got a few more details about the men who are in custody. Both of them had been living in the suburbs north of Paris. One of them, a 34-year-old man, an Algerian national, had been arrested at Charles de Gaulle airport on Saturday night as he was preparing to board a flight to Algeria on a one-way ticket. He was previously known to police for theft. The other one, a 39-year-old man who had previously been convicted of theft in 2004 and 2018. So the investigation continues as to the questions about how such a theft and such a major security breach at the Louvre Museum could have happened.
Catherine Norris-Trent following the story of the theft of the French crown jewels from the Louvre. 2 men set to be charged with theft and conspiracy. The hunt, of course, for the jewels and the rest of the gang continues.
So very, very interesting. And I have to outline the fact that I think the French police did an outstanding job in processing the DNA evidence, putting the DNA evidence through their system. In the US, we call it CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System, which is run by the FBI. I don't know what France calls their system, but apparently both of these robbers were in it from previous crimes. So that tells us a lot about the criminals involved here. But it seems that it is more important for authorities to get the jewels back than it seems to be to prosecute these individuals. I mean, the heaviest charge seems to be conspiracy, the robbery charge. But their criminal justice system obviously is a little bit different than ours, so I'm not sure why they would only charge one of them. It seems there's a stronger case against one than the other. The other thing is that everyone is talking about is the security, or the lack thereof of security in the Louvre, which has some of the most valuable pieces of art and jewelry in the world. And yet security was lax. Security gets very little attention until something goes wrong. And any time in any society, whether it's France, the US, or other countries, if they need to cut corners, budgetary corners, the first thing they cut is security. So when something like this happens, everyone is up in arms. But guess what? They're probably guilty of that too. They're probably guilty of cutting corners to make ends meet for the museum. So when they complain now that this huge robbery has occurred, it's sort of consistent with how people view security overall. This is from CNN.
In the evening, 2 men were arrested. One was arrested at 8 p.m. at Roissy Airport as he was attempting to leave for Algeria without a return flight to France. A second suspect was arrested at 8:40 at his home. He was not planning to travel abroad, unlike what some media outlets have been reported. These are men aged 30 of Algerian nationality, living in France since 2010 in Aubervilliers. He was unemployed on the day of his arrest, but previously had worked as a delivery man. Already known by the police services for delinquency and had also been sentenced for theft in the past. The second suspect is aged 39, living in Aubervilliers, where he was born. He is working as an illegal taxi driver, but also worked as a delivery man. He has already been known to the police for aggravated theft in 2008 and 2014 and is under judicial supervision at the moment, linked to another case that will be managed in November. During the hearing, the information occurred showing that it was about an ATM machine in Aubervilliers. His DNA was located on the glass that had been broken. And this is unlike what was said in some media outlets. They were not wearing a yellow construction worker vest. So they are currently being presented in front of the investigating magistrates before their formal charge for organized gang theft. This has a sentence of 15 years in prison and a high fine. The qualification for the second suspect has been identified as up to 10 years imprisonment. We have requested pre-trial detention, and the investigating magistrates are going to be issuing declarations. All members of the perpetrators have not yet been caught, so I am only providing you with the information that we have. The investigation remains secret and confidential regarding those still being sought. The jewels have not yet been returned to our possession. I hope that they will be found and will be able to be returned to the Museum of the Louvre and to the nation.
So that's Paris prosecutor Laura Bucau. So to give you an update, 2, of course, we know that have been arrested, and they were in custody for 96 hours. I mean, I don't think that they were actually being interrogated for 96 hours, but they've been spoken to. So the previous reports that they refused to talk were not totally clear. Those previous reports apparently are not correct, because they have admitted, apparently, to taking part in this robbery. Whether or not they gave up names or addresses or any other information relative to others that may have been involved in this case is, at this point, unclear. However, we spoke earlier on in this coverage of this case that one of the priorities, of course, you see the thumbnail up on the screen, is the return of the jewels. And it seems that they are almost already saying that they do not believe that this was an inside job. A little bit early to say that, because you could come up with something else that later on tells you that there were people involved. Remember, we spoke about the one camera out front that was pointed in the opposite direction of where the thieves entered the Louvre on the second floor in order to take part in this heist, this robbery. So conspiracy, robbery, gang theft, all of these are potential charges for these individuals. And just to really repeat over and over and over again, it seems like the priority of the French government and the priority of this investigation is to get those jewels back so they can be returned to the Louvre Museum, so that everyone in the world that desires to can see these jewels. This is also from French TV, France 24.
France. It's a story straight out of a TV series, a spectacular daylight theft of priceless jewels at the Louvre Museum here in Paris. Two suspects then remain in custody over that daring heist, but police have said they have until this evening to decide whether to charge them or in fact let them go. The French government, meanwhile, is scratching its head over what went wrong at the Louvre on the day in question. Let's speak to our international affairs editor about this, and Angela Diffley. Angela, I mean, this is a story that's left a lot of us completely enthralled. Two suspects then arrested on Saturday. What do we know about them since those arrests?
Well, we know they're two men in their 30s from the outskirts of Paris. They both have criminal records involving crimes to do with theft. And it is reported, although the police haven't confirmed it, that one of them was trying to board a flight to Algeria when they were arrested. They haven't said a huge amount from what we're hearing yet while they've been in custody, and that's going to be a problem. The police now, as you said, have two choices. They have a third choice, so they can release, they can charge, or they can apply for an extension in the hope that they might talk more or say something more useful, because the key things the police want to know are they need to find the other two suspects. We know that there were four, and above all, with the clock ticking, where are the jewels? Because there is real worry. That sort of historical artifact, there's no market for that, but what everyone thinks is that they will quickly melt down the gold and recut the diamonds, and thereafter those priceless historical artifacts will never be recognizable again and never be found again.
Well, this has caused a massive row here in France. Talk us through why it's so momentous and why it's so divisive.
Yeah, I think, in France, anything to do with the French culture or history or heritage really goes right to what many French people see as their identity. They see themselves as a beacon in the world. It's not for nothing that UNESCO is headquartered in France. The French fought for that. They see themselves as a cultural beacon in the world. The Louvre is the most visited museum in the world. It is the biggest museum in the world. The idea that this could have happened in 7 minutes in the heart of Paris at this museum has rocked France. It is also, of course, because of the feverish politics at the moment and some would say it has been used, shambolic state of affairs in the Houses of Parliament here in France. This is being seen as a bit of a metaphor for what's going on in France. France is a laughingstock in terms of its politics at the moment. Now people around the world are laughing at this 7-minute burglary. What was the problem with the security? there was an advert on the Louvre website which said, lose yourself in the Louvre. And the French word for lose yourself was, the word they use is the same word as you'd use for escape. That was quickly removed from the website. There were, a lot of people have seen the advert for the truck saying when you need to make a quick getaway. There's been a lot of laughter about it. In fairness, the French have managed to see the funny side, but it's hard to overstate how much this sort of thing matters in France.
So, again, to update, 2 arrested. Unclear if both will be charged. 2 at large, at least 2 at large, who, of course, they would like to get the other 2. But mostly, it seems the goal is the return of the jewels. And are the French people the laughing stock of the world because of inadequate security, inadequate money spent on security? All of that remains to be seen. However, one thing is very clear. The French police did a great job in making the arrests very, very quickly after the robbery and continuing this investigation. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Have a great night, everyone, and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.